All right, hello Robert. How
Hello,
you doing?
Thomas.
Hi Chris. How are you?
Very well, mate. Yourself?
Excellent.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to talk about your office in Bankstown.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
Wiseberry in Bankstown. Is that a good market? Is it a market that is moving in October?
Bankstown's always been a good market.
Yes.
Bankstown's a fantastic place to live. It's a melting pot of cultures. It truly is, and we've got sales side of it. We've got price ranges from the very low 400s all the way up to a couple of $1 million. So
Right.
it's a wonderful place to live. It outperforms a lot of suburbs usually in growth. And there's a lot of things coming to Bankstown, like there's a new university being built in Bankstown, the light rail's coming through into Bankstown. If you want to go out and eat, I think you can pick from any continent in the world, maybe apart from Antarctica, to go and eat.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic place to live.
Okay, let's start with the first thing first, because I've been talking to other people
Yeah.
close to the inner west, and they're talking about the rental markets
Yeah.
being down for them. So let's talk about the rental market in Bankstown. How is that now going?
It has been down actually. We've noticed that it's dropped by about 10%, especially for units, because there's an oversupply of units. The older units are slower to move than the newer ones, because
Right.
people want the newer stuff. Is always more in demand.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, we're renting brand new units in Percy Street for $550 before. The same unit now is renting for $500, and
Right.
we're lucky to get $500. Whereas houses are being very, very steady, and there's a demand for houses.
Yes.
So we're finding that with houses, it's still pretty good. They did come back a bit, but now that they seem to be picking up a little bit again. So and there's more demand for housing than what there is for units.
Okay.
So the rental market has picked up. Whether it's the warmer weather, we have noticed a big difference. Yeah, and more so in houses than units.
Okay.
Units are still a bit slow.
Okay. So has it gone back to pre-COVID in terms of rental prices?
No, I'd say it's about the same.
Right.
It's about the same. So prices did go back, right? And then they've sort of picked up again. We're about the same as pre-COVID, I'd say now. So
Yeah.
back to some normality.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, we did have a bit of a downturn as well.
There was also a fair bit of an influx of new properties, new units into the market.
Yes.
During COVID too. So a lot of those developments that were being finished off, developers were holding on to maybe half their stock, selling half the development, keeping half the development. So they were coming into the rental market, flooding it with new units. And that's why the older units were taking a little bit more time to rent, and they took a little bit of hit because we had such an influx of these new properties onto the
Yes.
market.
I understand. So do you have a good rental story or a good landlord story?
Yeah, I do have one. This is one that Frankel shared with me. He had a property at 71 Oak Drive, Georges Hall, listed for $580 per week, which was $30 above market. Usually they rent for about $550, those type of homes. He had 20 groups of people through that attended the first open, and it was leased within the first week to a top applicant, obviously. So, and an owner that lived in the same street noticed, and obviously gave him his number, because he actually picked up another property in the street because he had it with another agent, and they weren't able to lease it for, I think it was on the market for about 3 weeks without being leased. So he picked up another one from that, so he was happy, and the neighbour noticed that we turned it around fairly quickly.
Yes.
So that was due to obviously our marketing and the demand.
Yes, and also Franco
those
is
homes.
very meticulous in the way he works. You know, if I wish landlord could see what he does for them behind the scene. He's very meticulous. He goes through by the books. Everything has to be crossed, all the T's and
Correct.
all the dots on the I's, and that works. It talks in terms of results.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
What about the sales market? What's happening?
Sales market, look, at clearance rates on auctions are only just slightly below what they were for this time last year.
Wow.
So we're like at 71% clearance rate, where last year was 73.
Right.
So for this time last year, which is a big increase from where we were during the beginning of COVID, I think it dropped down to about 30% clearance rate in the middle of COVID. So now we're more than double, back to close to time where we were last year. Medium sale price for the homes is up as well. It's it had about a 7% growth. We're at about 960 for the average in Bankstown, not the surrounding areas, but specifically in Bankstown.
Yes.
And average unit prices have also increased because of that off the plan development starting to settle now, because a lot of those units are being finished.
Yes.
So that's also had a good increase of we are at 521 for the medium, 520 for the medium sale price, with about a 4.5% growth for units over the last rolling 12 months.
Okay.
So the sales market is strong. And I think I've heard this in a lot of areas, and I don't think whether outside of COVID, what market it is, we're short on stock, but there is a big demand. So sometimes there's short on stock, we haven't got a huge demand, but there is a big demand for homes at the moment.
Right.
In some price brackets, we're seeing huge numbers through the open homes.
So up to about $1 million, there's big demand for houses. More so than units. Units are moving, but they're moving slower, and only if they're priced right. So the ones that we've been selling have been priced right, and we've been turning them over. But there is more units on the market that are not moving. Houses, however, seem to be moving a lot quicker, especially in that average 850 to 950 range is a good range. Under that mill mark, there's a big demand.
Okay.
And then top end houses, I've noticed, are still moving as well, but obviously not as much as the under $1 million properties.
There have been sales outside and inside that Bankstown area at that 1.2, 1.4, 1.8 mark, Punch Bowl, Bankstown, Georges Hall. There have been those sales, but it's not the norm of the area. The majority, as I said, the median house price in Bankstown is at 960. For example, I had a house, and funnily enough, it's very hard to pick at the moment. I had a house go to auction. During the auction campaign, it wasn't a huge response. We did the same marketing. Yeah. It was a little bit funny. The inquiry we had, it got passed in. The following week, in 1 week, I had 36 groups of people come through the property the week after the auction, and it went under contract almost straight away. That fell over. The buyer couldn't get finance. Went back on the market. In 2 weeks, I had 45 groups of buyers come through, and again, it's gone under contract for more than we sold it for the first time. Actually, for more than we had the reserve price on it. So, that was in that below 800 price range. So I'm finding that huge buyer interest in that 750 to 800 bracket. That 8 to 9 bracket it's strong.
Yeah.
And you can almost pick the buy type that you are going to come through the property. Depending on the location, the size of the block, and what it's got to offer, whether it's going to be developers, homeowners, or investors. You can almost pick the people who are going to come and buy it.
But you'll find that things are actually going to increase for the units, because up until 850 or 900, first home buyers are going to be pushed in as long as it's new. And also they have eased the lending criteria. So therefore, there's going to be more buys and a ripple effect from the first home buyers into much higher and more expensive property.
So they still get their exemption, their stamp duty exemption if it's second hand.
Yeah.
So we're still finding the smart ones with a good deposit coming through, getting good value for money in their units, because they're buying quite a large, maybe 5-10-year-old unit that might be 110 square meters internal plus double car parking and so forth with reasonable strata. Whereas if they, for around that 480, 500 mark, whereas if they buy new, they're getting into that 550, 600 bracket. Sure, they get the $10,000 grant from the government.
Free stamp duty.
And free stamp duty, but that second-hand unit range is still attractive to the first home buyers, but there's a lot for them to choose from.
Right.
And that's the issue we're having. There's a bit of a glut in the market of units because they've all completed at a similar time. It doesn't say that we're not getting results for good units. Good units, a good property will always sell if it's priced well. And so that's a good thing. But we are seeing strong first home buyers through our units.
Yeah, the good thing, Chris, is that I've seen you at auctions. You know how to stir buys and you know how to get it going.
It's fun.
So even for those units, I mean, as an auctioneer,
yeah.
I'd say, even though a lot of auctioneers will tell me 90% of the job being done by salespeople beforehand, it still takes a little bit of a comedian, a bit of an actor to get things going and stir them up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As an auctioneer and as a sales agent, and I've actually called an auctioneer in to do a property that I've had years ago because it was such a big turnout. I needed another feet on the ground, so to speak, to deal with the buyers. A good auctioneer can't make a bad campaign good. He can help at the end. A bad auctioneer can make a good campaign bad, though.
Yes.
So if you're a sales agent, you really need to make sure you're picking a good auctioneer that's going to come in, maybe interview you and have a chat with the owners prior to the auction day, really get to understand what's been going on, the buyer feedback, helping you to get the owner's expectation to maybe where you need, and maybe help the buyers get them to beyond where they need to pay to secure the property. So a good auctioneer will always help the agent out, creating a good campaign, making finalising a good campaign with a success, rather than stumbling after a good campaign.
Yeah. I mean, Robert, how long have you been in business now?
Well, since Jesus played fullback for
probably
England.
before Bankstown was created,
or in
probably.
Bankstown, mate.
Since I think he sold the first cave to.
Yes, mate. Almost 28 years, Thomas.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to is that you know the Bankstown market like the back of your pocket.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
Yes, mate.
So would you say that in the 28 years, things have changed in terms of demography in Bankstown?
Dramatically, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So back then, the demographics were a little bit different. There was a lot more Australians in the area, which was great because they're beautiful to deal with. And then the Lebanese and the Vietnamese were a little bit minor. Now they've come in and
they flip the coin. Yeah.
Now they've become dominant, right? So
Yes. The coin.
most of our clients are Lebanese and the Vietnamese, the majority, but we still get the Europeans there. There's still the
It's a
old
big mix. It's a big mix.
Italian,
Yeah.
the Greeks are still there, a lot of Macedonians are still there, and there are still a few Australian people.
Yeah, that's a
there
fun
as
thing
well.
about you. Every time I go
So-
down and see you, you still manage to pull me into an Italian restaurant. And I thought there was more
Yes,
Vietnamese and Lebanese restaurant down there.
La Piazza, mate, in Bankstown, yeah. Very, very good.
So, looking at the new budget here, how are you reading the market going into Christmas?
I think the budget is fantastic. I think there's a lot of good incentives there. I think the government's done a very good job putting that budget together because it's obviously going to help businesses, but it's also going to help people get into the market as well. So they're trying to stimulate the property market. So I think there's going to be a lot of good things coming out of that budget where people are going to go for property more so than what they have been. I think a lot of people have been sitting on the fence as well. Apart from the coastal regions where they've been doing coastal changes and moving up to the coast because people are working from home now rather than working in the city.
Right.
I think that this budget is going to drive people to invest more in real estate. So hopefully we're going to be a little bit more busier with investors coming back in, first home buyers coming back in.
So probably a bigger focus on units then.
Look, I don't know if it's going to be the units. What I think is a lot of the shortage of properties we have at the moment is the lack of confidence in the market coming from the owners, from our vendors.
Right. Hence the builders are holding off.
Right. Builders are holding off.
Correct.
The builders are holding off. The owners are holding off that sea change. The ones that are doing it are still finding they're getting good prices because there is a shortage and the buyers are still there. I think this economy, what Robert said is right, is that it's going to create stability and confidence back within the economy, which will bleed obviously through into our vendors and our buyers. So those vendors, I think, will have more confidence listing their home. Whether it's coming into Christmas, I think we'll need maybe a few weeks adjustment to people start to absorb that feel of security through themselves before they say, okay, now it's time. Maybe towards the end of this year, which we only have 9 weeks before Christmas, I think it is. Maybe at the beginning of next year we'll have a bit more of a go at it. I think stock levels will increase. Buyer security, I think, is there because the banks are lending, and there are starting
and
to.
money's cheap.
And
money's very cheap.
I don't think I know anyone that's not looking at refinancing their mortgage at the moment if they can't get their rates down to 2.2 or 2.5%. So money is very, very cheap. So I think the properties are going to come in the market because the economy will show some stability from what the government is doing. and then those will see an increase in houses on the market. Once that come on the market, the whole thing's going to increase. The buyer stability, security is going to come back, and the confidence will be there. So yeah, I don't see it an overnight thing. I don't think it's going to happen within the next 4 or 5 weeks before Christmas. But I think beginning of next year, people will see they'll be over COVID. They'll see the stability and all.
I agree with Chris. There's always a transition period, whether it's a couple of weeks or a month. People will start to go for finance a bit more, and the banks are going to loosen their lending a little bit now, so they're going to be able to give people a little bit more of a loan, whereas before they were holding off. But I don't think the banks will loosen it straight away. I think it's going to be a gradual thing, because they've invested so much money in making all these little procedures where people have to jump hoops.
Mate, they will loosen it straight away. They want to lend money out, mate.
If they're smart, they will.
They'll want to lend money out.
But I think it's going to be a slow process loosening the lending policy.
We had seen a lot of the properties we were selling more than 1 or 2 valuations getting done. So the brokers were shopping around for the buyers, trying to get the best deal for the buyers.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to get 2 or 3 different banks aiming who's going to give us the best rates, get the valuation done. So they're going, okay, you're going to give us a loan at 2 point whatever. Let's see if we can save a couple % with this bank. So we've had to do more than 2 valuations on a couple of properties.
Yes, that's true.
So that even the brokers are playing the banks at their own game now, because money is so cheap.
Yes.
Online, you go to online. There's one that you 1.99% for the first 12 months, and then we will be the cheapest rate after that. So whatever the cheapest rate is, they'll beat it by 0.1%.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cheap rates out there at the moment. So yeah, money's cheap, confidence is going to increase, so the market, I think, will pick up.
I think people will start realising that it's a good time now, and this fear of COVID is sort of ending. People are becoming more confident.
Right.
So I think that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just getting people to realise that, you know what, life still goes on. We always need a roof over our head. So I can see people coming into the market a bit more, and with this lending, easing of the lending now was going to help a lot, and this budget, I think, is going to be a big bonus coming into between now and Christmas. But I see we'll find it more in the new year. The first quarter of the new year, I think, is where you're going to see a lot more activity. What we've got to do now is get some stock. At the moment, our stock levels are very, very dry, and people are holding off. And there's not a lot of properties that have been selling. I've had a look last month at the area that we live in. There hasn't been too much turnover there either. So
well, that means that it's coming. Maybe your Christmas will not be as quiet as you think.
Okay, maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe it's going to be quite busy around Christmas, because in Australia, people are not a victim of circumstance. Bad, down, or really great, they still moving. They still getting on with life.
Yeah.
So those who've been holding off about moving, well, they're still making that kind of move coming up to Christmas, right?
Rob and myself, we've planned for this in August, saying we have to do a big push on letterbox drops, marketing, and so forth in August, which we've started off in September, to get into front of more people, because we knew that the market would start to ease up. A lot of these owners are going to want to call their agents in, so we could see that pick up. Hopefully that does, like you said, start in November, December. Even if we're in the doors at November, December, and they're coming on the market in the new year. But we have prepared for that.
That's fine. We can sell them in 2 weeks.
Well, absolutely. We've done it in the past, but
like last month, we had some good properties that sold very quickly. So, and that's a sign of the more confidence in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Okay, so closing off this podcast now. Why Bankstown? Why should someone live in Bankstown?
I've been in Bankstown 11 years. Year in, year out, I think it's the growth in Bankstown has outperformed the majority of the other suburbs in Sydney.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest growth areas in Sydney. Just this year, even through COVID, over the last rolling 12 months, it's 7.6% growth, I think it was.
Right.
So if you're an investor, homeowner, whichever way you look at it, there's a train station right by, you've got all the shops, amenities, everything you need, Bankstown Hospital. So homeowner, investor, developer, it's always going to be a good purchase.
Yeah, all the services being there.
All the
everyone's
service,
going to
everything's
be-
there. And it's from Sydney, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to the city. You Parramatta, you've got all the other major business districts which aren't that far.
Yes.
But if you like a lifestyle, if you want to live in the middle of Bankstown, you don't have to have a car. As I said before, if you enjoy eating out, you can eat out at a different country every night of the week. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
From my office, we can walk down the street 50 metres and we could have 7 different nationalities.
Wow.
From Japanese to Chinese to Vietnamese to Indian to Italian
Lebanese,
to Lebanon, everything. And we walk 50, 60 metres.
Right.
And it's good quality food.
And it's still not that far from the city, isn't it? You hop on
No.
a train. I mean, on the
I
train.
think it's-
how long would that
it's
take?
25 minutes.
Right. I mean, it's
20
crazy.
minutes sometimes. Express train, 15 minutes.
Yeah. You said earlier that there was a university opening. I didn't know that.
In Bankstown, they're looking, well, not looking. They are going to build a new university in Bankstown.
Oh, wow.
So there's always it's going to be part of the Milperra campus because there's one at Milperra.
Yes.
But they're opening a second building in Bankstown, not far from where the library is and so forth.
Oh.
So there's another university coming into Bankstown itself.
I think that's going to be a big reason for units to go.
Well, for the investors, it's prime. If you're buying one betters. If you've got studios or one betters, those students are going to want them. While during COVID, it's not great because no one, wants to rent. But during normal, functioning of the area, that university will fill those one betters for the investors without a problem. So I'm talking to a developer at the moment saying, well, I think we need to attract investors from outside of Bankstown because there's areas around Bankstown like Hurstville, Burwood, Caringbah, for example, that are overpriced. So they're buying 2-bedroom units for maybe $750,000. You can come and buy a brand new unit in Bankstown for $550,000, $560,000. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, brand new. The rental return will be $500 a week, $510. So it's actually positively geared. If you've put a 10% deposit down, so it's actually positively geared.
That's right.
Yeah. Plus, with the depreciation, you're winning all the way to the bank.
Right, and then with the depreciation, you're getting a good tax return, offsetting on your tax.
Yeah.
So why would we not try and then attract those investors outside our area to bring them into Bankstown? I think Bankstown as a investment area surrounds of Bankstown. There's little suburbs around Bankstown, which are also a fantastic area to invest. So it's sort of the inner west. It's the outside of the inner west, which is sort of undervalued, I think.
Okay.
I think.
It's also a little city. Bankstown is known as a city. It's Bankstown City.
Right.
And the multiculturalism in Bankstown, the different nationalities make it unique.
Mm-hmm.
And it is close to everything and it's affordable to buy in. And it's been growing over the years. So why not Bankstown? Bankstown's a great area.
Right.
Great area to live in. I mean, and in the surrounding suburbs, good story is I had a property last month that we had on the market for a week and a half, and we ended up selling it for like $100,000 more than what we told the owner it was worth. So that's
crazy.
So
mate, 27 or 28 years in Bankstown, you must have a truckload of contacts, right? So anyone who leads with you probably is listing with the whole of Bankstown. You probably met them all when they moved in. All right, thank you very much, boys, for this month.
Thanks, Thomas.
We catch up
Thank you, Thomas.
in November. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.
okay, thank you.
Bye.